Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon at Just Login's webinar for Employee Financial Wellness, a new way to support the employees. So thanks everyone for taking the time this afternoon. I think it's been a very fruitful few weeks that we have been running our series of webinars. This is one of our latest one, basically talking about how companies can support employees, especially in the area of financial wellness. Okay, I think everyone's kind of like going through this circuit breaker, and things are come to a point where everyone, this kind of new norm for everybody, especially as for companies, and how they're going to support employees going forward. I think in our experience, in fact, in my personal experience, what I find is that a lot of uh, companies tend to be able to provide a lot of benefits in the past, do look into company retention, employee retention in the past, tend to be more focused a little bit more on things like how do you retain employees, right? And how to keep attracting employees. And the focus tends to be a little bit more on areas that such as free lunches, bonuses, healthcare and so forth. But not many companies actually focus on area of financial wellness. In fact, thinking back on my own personal experience in school, companies, I mean, in school, they don't even teach you how to manage your wealth, right? You pretty much, you learn science, you learn mathematics, but no school actually teach you how to manage the money, right? This is something that as we kind of as we kind of go into the workforce, um, we find that this is one thing that as you start your own families, you find that this is a big challenge because no one actually told you how to manage your money properly. And to go into this situation, especially with the COVID situation, especially with this sudden loss of jobs, find that a lot of companies are caught in a lot of employees are caught in a situation which they do not know what should they do. They probably haven't set aside an emergency fund. So what are companies doing to look into this? I don't think many companies have looked into this problem before, and end up they get pulled into discussions like, oh, maybe could you extend me a loan? How am I going to access money that I do not have at the moment, or how do I pay the bill, or how to pay my mortgages at the end of the month? So companies inevitably get drawn into this kind of discussion with employees, and I think suddenly companies are aware that employees' financial wellness is actually a very important thing, and it plays a very big part of the employees' happiness and their the loyalty to the company. So we have looked at this problem, and I think it's also a good time that we look at the problem whereby HR tech, and especially with fintech companies out there, they're already looking at this issue, right? And how can HR tech and fintech come together to solve this problem, right? To help companies look into the financial wellness of employees. So today I've established we at Just Login has a very happy to work with some of the most exciting players in the fintech industry to look into this problem together with everyone, so and share their insights and to share their thoughts and maybe how their companies are able to provide such a solution to the market. So with this, I would like to kind of introduce our first speaker, Brian, who is from Circle Pay. Circle Pay is a very exciting company that's in the fintech space. I would like to let my panels introduce themselves first, but I think for a start, we'll introduce Brian onto the discussion. Maybe Brian?
Hey, thanks, Yuhao. Hi, everyone. Um, so let me just quickly introduce Circle Pay to you guys. We are trying to help employees to live more fulfilling and rewarding lives. And the way we do this really is by giving them access to their earned but unpaid salary before the typical payday. What we're trying to do really is to improve the liquidity needs of employees, especially for certain target and sub-market that we are targeting. If I can get to maybe just move to the first slide that we have. I even, yeah, the next one. Yeah. So I think the first thing really is, you know, to really take a step back and to figure out and ask ourselves why, you know, why is it that financial wellness is actually a topic that's becoming increasingly important to both employers and employees. And it's really, I think, a function of how the employees' needs and aspirations have changed over the years. So going back to say when my dad started work, he joined one company and he retired in the same company, right? And among his peers, that was very, very common. I think today, if you were to look at the employees today, I think if you told them, oh, I joined the one company and I'm retiring in the same company, they would look at you and go, what's wrong with you, right? So I think on average now, people spend about 3 years at their company. I think what this does really though is as we sort of work in different firms and work with new people, we get exposed to different types of benefits. We get exposed to different types of financial products a lot more than if you were to stay in the same company. So I think that really makes people sort of wonder, okay, what else can my employer do for me? The other thing I wanted to highlight on this slide really is the number of years in retirement. So because of our fantastic healthcare system, we're actually living a lot longer. I think average age in Singapore for is right now about 85 to 87 years. So because of that, the number of years we actually have in retirement has extended. So in the past, you're only going to be retirement for 8 years before you're gone, whereas now it's about 22 years. And so then all of us have to start really thinking much harder about, okay, how are we going to have sufficient funds in the future for us to live out our retirement comfortably. Next slide, please. So employees actually are concerned about their financial wellness, and they are stressed about it as well. And this has a very negative impact on the employers. So studies have been done by PwC that show that, in fact, about a third of your employees are distracted at work because they are stressed out about their finances. And 49% of them actually spend 3 or more hours just thinking about how they can deal with their own personal finance issues. So as any employer will know, that's a huge impact to your productivity. And more so, I think safety as well, which is not highlighted on this slide. So especially for people who are working in potentially high-risk jobs or heavy manufacturing, if they are distracted and they're not thinking about and focus on their job, it could lead to accidents. Next slide, please. So just to recap again what we do, so we give employees and how we try and help them is really by taking their mind off their immediate financial needs. So for whatever reason, people may have immediate need for cash flow, whether it's to pay a sudden medical bill for either themselves or for their family, or it's to even sometimes buy a computer for their kid who needs it for school. In Singapore, I think we're quite fortunate, so people do have access to credit cards, etc. But drawing out cash from a credit card is still very expensive. So what we do is we actually let them access their salary before the end of the month, and by doing so, they actually get access to the lowest cost of funding that they can find in the market. Okay, and so that's the quick introduction from me. And then I guess you hear a bit more from me as we do our panel discussion later. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, Brian. So the next, just in another company that's probably quite exciting for me personally, I use Stashaway for some of my SRS funding and retirement savings. So I'm very pleased to get Philip from Stashaway to do a quick introduction about the company.
Yeah, thanks, Jahao, and thank you, Brian, for your overview as well. There was a few things that I was going to mention as well that you already covered, so that's good. I think, so for everyone who doesn't know Stashaway, we have a B2C as well as a B2B side of business. I had the B2B side, which is called Stashaway Workplace. But you most likely know us from the B2C side, which is Stashaway. We're a digital wealth management firm. So we actually help people from any kind of, level. If you're 18 years old and you have $10 to invest, you can start using Stashaway, right? So we got rid of all these physical barriers of investing, lowered the fees by using technology, and etc. So you can learn a lot more about Stashaway on our website. So, but in today's capacity, I'm here for Stashaway Workplace. And Stashaway Workplace is also a little bit of a passion project from me. So I joined Stashaway right when we started, almost more than 2.5 years ago. And my previous experience has always been in workplace and in the US mostly, on helping employees of big companies to retire, right? So I do a lot of the educational talks in the US, help the companies set up pension plans and savings plans for their employees. And when I came over to Singapore and joined Stashaway, from the very beginning, we reached out to companies here in this region because what I saw is there was not much financial wellness being offered as part of employee benefits, right? And as Brian already mentioned a couple of key points here, but employees are worried about their personal finance all the time, right? So they're spending time thinking about this. And if they're not prepared, or they've in their mind, hey, I don't have an emergency fund set up, right? I can't save for my kids' college expense. That's on their mind. So what can employers do to help, right? So what we did from the beginning is we reached out to HR and employers. We've done now talks at 120 companies across Singapore and Malaysia. And what we do is we give financial education, right? It's actually a free program that we do for companies where we help employers set up a curriculum. We have about 9 different talks, from beginner seminars to intermediate to advanced ones, where we help employers set up a structured program for 1 or 2 years, where we come in every quarter or every 6 months to help these employees learn more about personal finances. It starts as basic as having an emergency fund, right? And budgeting, saving, while then graduating to more investments and what to look out for there as well. So we do that for the employers. And then we also do, under the Stashaway Workplace umbrella, we also do savings and investment plans as well, right? So Xiaohao was just telling you, he's using SRS, for example, to save. And we also offer this for employers, where they can set up their employees, and they can either also put some money towards the plans. They can just have the employees save. We do a lot of the bigger companies, CPF for expats substitutions, right? Instead of giving them cash in lieu of CPF, we manage those funds for the company, so they have a little bit more control of what the employees do with the money, right? Because it's important. There was some stats that Brian already mentioned, but here's a couple other ones on this slide, right? So there's only 1 in 5 Singaporeans that they actually feel that they know investing, right? It's not just about saving. You can save forever in a cash account and not gonna still retire, right? You need to also get a better understanding of investing. 25% of Singaporeans, I think this is worldwide the same now, especially with the younger generation, right? I think it's more important to live in the moment than plan for the future, because that is very far away, right? So helping them understand that is very important. And only 43% of Singaporeans say they're well prepared for financial retirement. This is a huge number, right? It's almost half. They're not financially prepared, which means they think about it all the time, right? They're worried about it. So next slide, please. Again, I mentioned it already. So some of the things to combat this is how we do it. We do it in person and now online. And since so I've been talking to a lot of the big airlines before this, and we've now done some in Malaysia as well as here in Singapore, because they have a problem, right? Everyone is furloughed and no one, when are they going to go back up? So employees are worried, people want more engagement. So especially now since COVID, I've been doing probably 2 to 3 seminars a week at different companies, because they want some engagement from the employees. They're not in the office and things like this, right? So this is just some of the topics that we actually cover. Next slide. And so this is also still part of the financial education program that we offer. So we have digital learning modules, articles, weekly market commentaries, and the in-person seminars. You can also, the employees can use our app. It's completely free of charge, the app, right? So everyone can download this, and you can actually full financial planning tools right in the app. So employees can actually play around with all the goals in life, right? So an employee might want to retire in a few years, but they also have 2 children. What does that mean for cash flow, right? How much do I need to save for each of those children and my retirement? And how can I achieve this? Next slide. We don't need to go. I mentioned this already. So that's Stashaway Workplace. As I said, I think we'll hear more about in the panel discussion about all the other ways of how you and people can improve their financial life.
Fantastic. Thank you, Philip. Thank you for the quick introduction. The next speaker that I have is Amar. If the audience do know, recently we just announced a partnership with Amar, with Amar's company, MatchMove, to collaborate on a new wallet for employees, especially for just login customers. So this will be a very exciting development. And with this, I thought maybe Amar will be a very interesting speaker to share his insights, especially in what MatchMove is about and how financial wellness is gonna be looked at from his angle.
Excellent.
Amar, over
Thank you,
to you.
Shahab. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. So actually, next slide, please. So in terms of slide, I just have one, and this is in one slide what MatchMove does. We provide the bank in any app, and what that means is that we enable companies to be able to issue a bank-grade wallet along with a physical and a virtual card. And we also provide the companies to be able to remit money, or their employees or their customers to be able to remit money from within the app itself, and an ability to borrow as well from within the app itself. So payments and disbursements, cross-border remittances, and loans and finance. Chaha mentioned the partnership that we've just signed with Just Login, and that's exactly what our platform does. We are a B2B company that enables other companies that are getting into financial services, want to get into financial services, the ability to launch all of these facilities. What this does is, typically in a bank, you have five functions, right? Spend, ability to spend your money as and when you want, ability to send your money to your friends and relatives, or whether internationally or within the country, ability to borrow, and then of course ability to invest your money as well as you want. So we provide three of the key services through our B2B platform. What this does is basically it is democratizing the availability of financial services or banking through through cloud-based services. In Singapore, we've got a number of clients that use this facility. We've got Circle Life, which is the MVNO. I'm sure some of your employees and you yourself may be using that. It's an alternate to the big telcos. They issue our card. They issue a travel card. It's beta live right now, and it will go. Obviously, the COVID situation happened, and they stalled the launch, rightfully so. But once travel comes back, they will issue the card to the general public. We've got a number of expense management companies, such as Penmo, such as VoloPay, etc., that use our platform to basically provide corporate card solutions to small SMEs, small and medium enterprises, to manage their expenses. We've got companies such as Zipster. Zipster is a mobility app that is an SMRT unit, and that will consolidate all of the travel apps into one. And they will issue our card as well using our platform, issue their own branded card using our platform to enable cashless travel. So as you as owners working in senior positions in SMEs and other companies think this through, what we provide is the ability for you to be able to do all of the things that have been mentioned by the panelists, obviously in partnership with the companies that are on the panel, to offer these facilities to your employees. The ability to manage money, the ability to send money at low and cheap rates, and the ability to also borrow money through a single platform. Over to you, Chaha.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you. So that was essentially the few key speakers that we have for this afternoon. And before we go into a nice little panel discussion about how companies can provide financial wellness to their employees, maybe I'd like to run a little small poll to the audience. And just to get a sense, are you currently looking at financial wellness programs or initiatives for your employees? So please just give us some input so we kind of understand where the audience are at, and then at this journey, and then we can probably put some discussions around that. We'll share the results once it's all in. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at the results now. No. Okay, so we got about 60% of the audience with a no and a 40% being already looking at it. So I'd like to extend it out to the panelists. Is this a surprising number? Is this expected, or what do you think? I mean, Philip, you've been talking to a lot of companies on this. What are your thoughts? Is this something that you're seeing in the market?
I think I'm a bit surprised with the no, because I think especially now, like I mentioned earlier, during COVID already, right? A lot more companies have reached out, and we've covered a lot of companies already in Singapore, but I guess it depends also on size and sector, right? I think this COVID obviously has wreaked havoc on certain industries more than others. And I think that we definitely see, right? The tech companies and stuff, they're spending more because obviously it hadn't affected them that much, right? But I also think, and it would be a good question in a way, is for some people, they think it might be a big investment, right? So, but does it have to be a big investment? And I think if it's thought of as a big investment, does it cost a lot of money, or like, and the payoff we can measure, then I understand the number, right? But I think it needs to be, for example, we do our financial wellness, just the talks, right? We do them completely free of charge, right? There is no cost to it, right? For us, it's something that we feel strongly about. And if the employee ultimately wants to use Stashway, and they heard we came from Stashway, we don't do any sales, they can reach out to us separately, privately, if they want to, right? They don't have to. But for the companies, it's free, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting finding for ourselves. I mean, given that I guess a lot of companies are just trying to stay alive and trying to, but probably never thought of the fact that the employees are essentially what's running the company, and if companies are not looking at this problem, then you will just have very unsettled employees, right? I mean, Amar, do you see that in the clients that you're facing, or what are your thoughts on this poll?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll go a little bit contrary. I'm not surprised by the number. I think if you look at again some of the data shared, what companies used to provide as benefits earlier, and now there is actually a fair bit of effort being put into mental health and mental wellness. But I think a big chunk of that is related to finance and your personal finances. So stress, number one, stress comes from if you're lacking in money, right? And I think certainly we see some of our clients reaching out to us in terms of how can they improve, how can we help them improve the offerings, how can we help them save money, how can we also help them in generating revenue and providing benefits ultimately to the employees, right? So A, not surprised by the number. B, I think there is still a fair bit of opportunity within Singapore itself, and certainly across the region, where financial literacy needs to be again completely made available to as many people as possible, whether through the organization medium or other ways and means.
Yeah, and I'd agree with you there, definitely on the last part. And I think when you mentioned at the beginning that a lot of employees, right, if the root cause is personal finances, right, and then maybe they get mentally ill or something. So I actually was a company that does a good job where we just have helped out before is Grab, for example, right? So they do twice a year, they do something called Gratitude Day for their employees, where they take a week and employees can do workshops or like different things, and they fill out all the pillars, right? Mental wealth, physical wealth, and then financial wealth as well, right? So we do the financial wealth talks, but then they bring in all kinds of other, because I think it's a rounded offering. And in Asia, it's still not so popular, right? So when I came here 3 years ago, and I went to the first few HR conferences around the region, there was no talk about financial wellness at all, right? So last year, it started a little bit, right? And so this is why from our side, it's been also a little bit tough still to to reach more, but I think it's significantly opened up over the last year.
Yeah, actually, I think the results are actually encouraging because I think the way you ask the question, it's really, are companies currently looking at it? Yes, well, now, right? So the fact that actually there are more companies not looking at it now, it just means that they are willing to look at it. It may mean that they're willing to look at it in the future, just not currently. And it just means that we have a lot more opportunity to actually speak to all these companies which are not yet looking at it at the present moment.
Yeah, someone from the audience, King Singh, just came in with a comment that the current situation is very precarious as employers were struggling to keep afloat by ensuring there's no staff attrition at this time is the best they can do, right? Maybe when the economy picks up, they'll look into this initiative. I think this is a very good reflection of the fact that probably this virus or coronavirus situations just kind of make things more as amplifies this issue. A lot of companies probably never thought of it that way. They were just busy growing the business, but they never thought of, if such a situation happens, how do they help employees deal with it? Or how did they deal with it at the same time, trying to fight the virus at the same time? So I think this is a very very time that companies should start looking into it. But given there's such a thing, what do you think? What, in your opinion, to the panel, pretty much, is the first steps? What are the first steps that companies needs to do to start thinking about this problem? What do you think is the areas they can look at in terms of financial wellness? Is it education? Is it providing the tools? Is it looking internally? I don't know. I'm just kind of open up to the panel here. What are your thoughts? What are the first steps these companies can do? Maybe.
I think yeah, if I can just start off, I think firstly, it's important that the companies realize or understand that that they would like to help their employees, right? If we just go back to employee benefits, you go back 20, 30 years, a lot of the employee benefits that we have today were not in place, right? Even simple things like medical insurance, for example. So I think it's a mindset shift that would eventually take place, although the rate at which it takes place, I guess, would change and differ from country to country and from company to company. I think, as Chu Hao, you mentioned earlier, it's really a function of how valued the employees are in the organization. And ultimately, employees are at least to me, employees are the lifeblood of any organization, right? So if you don't take good care of your employees, your good employees will all eventually leave. And financial wellness, at least in my mind, is really something which is top of mind for employees today, and in particular the younger employees. So it may be something which is less of a concern for, say, someone in their 50s or 60s, but certainly for the younger employees, it is something at the top of mind.
I think also,
younger employees. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I think also the first question, if you may, is this a cost or is this an investment? Right. I think once you decide that this is an investment into your potentially most precious resource, which is your employees, like you mentioned again, right? If there's no employees, there's no company, right? So that's, I think, the first question to ask yourself as an owner or as a manager within an organization. I think the second, just to also pick on the question in terms of, when the economy picks up, I think there is probably a myth that all of these kind of services cost a lot. They actually don't, right? Because again, that's the genesis of fintech, right? As a whole, is that costs have dramatically come down because there are so many more smaller companies such as ourselves, growing companies such as ourselves, which have actually reduced the cost of these offerings and these servicing, right? Whether it's Stashaway, whether it's borrowing, right, which Brian and his company is doing, or whether it's the platform services that we provide, right? 5-10 years ago, if you were to provide these services through the banking industry, yes, it would have been tremendously expensive, right? Probably prohibitive, and certainly SMEs and even larger companies would have thought twice before offering it. But now, if you really sit down and think about what is the investment that is required to deliver these financial services, this financial wellness to your employees, actually the cost is very, very low. And in most cases, it's a SaaS-based pricing. So it's based on, how many consumers do you have, how many employees do you have, what services are they consuming, and so on and so forth, right? There is not a lot of investment required to get this across the table to your employees.
No, absolutely. And it's what, I mentioned earlier as well, because I think this is the myth, right? That things now cost. This is why we are there at FinTech, to disrupt the industry, right? To help people bring the costs down by using technology to be able to provide these services. And I think, to your last part, right? Where should they start? I think, again, we decided from the beginning, without having a special workplace official product in the beginning, right? We went out and we said, hey, we'll do these talks, right? We want people to be more financially savvy. Companies knew it's a need, but they were burned by a lot of the bigger insurance companies because they invited them in and all they did was sell to their employees, right? Products. And so we came with a refreshed view and we just did educational talks only. And so I think, but by offering any offering, if it's Brian's offering or Emma's offering or our offering, I think what it does show though also is that you care about your employees, right? They feel valued. They feel like, oh, someone actually, they come all day to work. They work long hours. They spend most of their day at work, right? So having them, giving them the feeling and the comfort of, hey, we care, because you spend a lot of time here. You're thinking about outside things like financial problems or, your personal finances. Why don't we bring some thought leaders in to share about their journeys, right? Or their, about certain topics that you think about anyways, right? And bring these experts in. So I think that's a very good start, right? And I think, again, I think all three of us mentioned it before. I think the most valuable thing is your employees, because they will leave otherwise, right? And how much does it cost to rehire someone new, right? It's a lot of cost. It's better to keep them. It's much a smaller investment, right? To keep them and care about them.
Yeah, that's definitely quite a valid point, right? A few things you guys you mentioned about the fact that technology now it's much more affordable, it's more accessible via the mobile and so forth. It's definitely brought the cost of providing these financial tools out much more affordable, especially if you launch it at a company level. It's definitely making it more accessible. But I think given the general audience in the room, it's like the sense is that most SMEs, I assume that most everyone in the table SMEs, they tend to be hiring maybe millennials or new workforce, right? Or blue collar workers or foreign workers, which in that sense, they don't, given such a high cost of living in most places, especially in Singapore and stuff, a lot of people are what you call a sandwich class, right? I mean, the people and the high salary range and the much more secure job, they're fine, they're well taken care of. I think what the fintechs tends to try to serve is maybe the ones that's below that line. I mean, what do you think? I mean, your companies itself, how does your company help these guys, right? Help these guys, especially this sandwich class. How does your solution help this sandwich class of people in what you've seen? Maybe.
Yeah, so maybe I can just kickstart. Actually, maybe just to take a step back, I think if we're talking about financial wellness, it's a much broader, not just the sandwich class. So the way we sort of define it is really that we can look at the employees' needs, their wants, and their aspirations. And I think financial wellness would encompass all three of those. For us, at Circle Pay, we're really trying to help, I think as Chuha mentioned, the people with needs. So whether this is the sandwich class or the people who are just starting out. And how we're really helping them is through giving them liquidity. Let me just share a story here. So, when we first started the business, we were thinking, okay, what we are offering really is going to be more useful in emerging countries, right? But I was actually having a drink at Cut in MBS, and I mean it's a pretty nice bar. Cocktails there are like $18-20, right? And it was pretty quiet. and it was a Tuesday night. So Tuesday night they actually have 1-for-1 specials, which is why I was there. I'm a cheapskate. But I was just chatting with the bartender, and I was like, hey, you know, it's a Tuesday night and it's pretty quiet. Where's everybody, right? And he was like, oh, it's the end of the month. And I was like, end of the month. I was like, okay. And it suddenly struck me, right, that actually, you know, there are a lot of people who are, you know, who actually have to wait for that paycheck to come in before they can spend the money, right? And I think at Circle Pay, what we're really trying to do is to help these guys, as well as help the guys who really need it for medical needs, etc. Yeah.
I mean, you brought up very important point about paycheck at the end of the month. Is I believe MatchMove tools is synergistic to that, right? It's something that looks at that problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like I said, right, so we have a couple of offerings which can really help employees, right? So again, you mentioned a number of companies employ overseas workers, whether blue collar or white collar, right? So again, given the environment and despite the environment, what we help do is to reduce the cost of remittances, right? It's a very big part of their financial responsibility to send money home, right? And what we've done is, through the offering, help in one, reducing the cost of remittances. Second, through the offering that we have, you know, not everybody has a card, right? And now with the spending going online, right, more and more spending going online, it's even now it's still unsafe to go outside. So the card solution provides an ability to make purchases online, whether it's daily necessities such as groceries and what have you, or whether it's a little bit of luxury, right, payment of your bills, etc., etc. All of that can be done through electronic medium, which again the platform provides, right? So again, number of areas of a person's or an individual's financial responsibility can be discharged by engaging with the platform.
Yeah, and just to add, I think from what Brian was saying as well, Joao, is you know, for us, yes, I think technology and fintech has made it available to everyone, right? But for example, on our platform, we have people that have, you know, they invest a few $1 million, right? We have, you know, people that do monthly savings, but we, you know, we also have people that put in $50 a week or $10 a week, right? So, which I think fintech, in all of our cases, it brought the costs down, and we can offer it to everyone. We don't have to have a minimum balance, right? You can literally start with $1 at Stashaway. Because one of our big things, because we're also available in you know, Malaysia, we're going to Thailand and some of the other countries this year as well. We want to bring digital wealth management to everyone, right? That was before only available to very few, right? And I think fintech just helps that, right? So for people who really, you know, want to learn about it, who are also, you know, don't have that much money available, they can profit from that, right? So, you know, yes, while we're sophisticated enough to bring products that you were able to get only at Credit Suisse before, in terms of the management of the funds, now you can do it even at $1. There's no more excuse not to start saving, right? There's no more excuse to like, you know, I always, especially I do talk to a bunch of these companies, and then a lot of millennials are there, right? And they're always interested because we're fintech. So they always just come, even if it's financial planning, they come just to hear about fintech, right? But, you know, for them, it's great, right? They can now start with their first paycheck, right? We always work with the national service guys as well, right? Look, you get your first paycheck, just put $10 a week away or something, right? It's, you know, one less drink a day or one less meal or something, whatever it might be. That barrier of entry is severely reduced now by fintech, right? And I think that has the biggest impact for that generation, because they will not go to a traditional bank. I'm talking to some partners, potential partners in countries like the Philippines or Vietnam. And, you know, they go from an e-wallet directly to a digital robo-advisor like us, right? They will never go touch a bank account and buy an expensive unit trust or an ILP. Never, will never happen. But now you can reach the 70% that are unbanked as well, right? And they're all of a sudden, oh, they can actually save for their kids to maybe go to a better school, right? Or they can save to buy a house at some point, whatever it might be. I think this is the integral part of the, you know, how fintech helps everyone actually across any spectrum, right? Of, you know, wealthy, not wealthy, you know, starting out, mid-career, late career.
That's all very exciting, right? Given all this fintech development on the market and everyone's trying to get the word out. But the question is, I think a lot of companies, especially in SME, they're all this fintech is all new. They're hesitant. It's not a traditional banking scenario. They've never done this before. Why do you think there's so much hesitation to adopt these technologies that you guys are providing? Any thoughts to that? Well, why do you think companies are so hesitant, and what's your take to them to say, hey, you know what, the money is safe? What's your comeback to that?
So I think all of the solutions, right, and if I'm potentially speaking for everyone, right, all of the solutions and all of this thing are certified, are under MAS license. We are regularly audited. The money is held in trust accounts. So there is very little, if you may, from a risk perspective on engaging with the fintechs. Again, while the industry is somewhat booming in Singapore, but it's also very, and rightfully so, very tightly regulated, right? So from a safety perspective, whether it's remittance, whether it's investments, whether it's the issuance of a card, all of this is under license from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. So I think from that perspective, everybody can be at peace, keep their mind at rest, right? This is not a fly-by-night operation. We are here, right? Regulated, regularly monitored, and in full compliance with the laws. And also from a technology perspective, are PCI DSS compliant, meet all standards, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, given such a regulations and all in place, so what's the why? I mean, what's the benefit of working with companies like yourselves versus working with a traditional bank, and stuff? What's the benefit of that? Any thoughts for companies
Well,
working with
I
companies
think
like
if you,
yourself?
especially when you mentioned earlier millennials, right, people hiring younger workforce, I think it's now expected to have top-notch technology tools available to employees, right? So I think you can't come anymore. When I see some of the older pension plans that some of the bigger companies here offer, and we go in and see they get zero engagement on the platforms because they use technology from 25 years ago, right? It looks like MS-DOS almost, right? So they're expected to have an app, right? So people are on their phone all the time now, right? They want to learn on the app, if it's education, if it's savings, if it's remittance, right? Everything should be able to do on the phone very quickly, right? And I think this is where we come in, and I think where we are much more agile, right? We don't have to go through the process of 50 steps to get the product out, right? If there's a need for the product, we get feedback from the clients. We do some user testing. We can have it out in a month or so, right? So it's a very different process, I think, in terms of working with a fintech compared to one of the older generation of products. And it just depends also on your employee base, right? Your employees better than we do. But if you're saying, like you were just mentioning that earlier, right, that a lot of people hire younger, out of college people, right? And they expect certain amount of technology when you offer them services, right? They're not that traditional anymore, that they want to sit down with, for example, in our case, with a traditional financial advisor who will sell like some financial planning and this life insurance you should buy and this investment, right? They want to choose themselves. They have internet available. They can search anything they want, right? You can now find anything online, and I think which has also driven down the pricing, right?
Brian, your delivery of your technology is through a mobile app as well?
Yeah, for us, it's actually through WhatsApp. So we decided to keep it really simple. So users just have to make their request through a WhatsApp account, send us a message, and then we would, once it's approved, we actually send them the funds. I think to the question also, probably slightly lower cost. I think we can compete on cost versus the incumbents. I think it's really because the incumbents have, or the existing banks have a certain cost structure, and they already have an existing business. So I think for Philip's business, Stashaway, probably the banks have a much larger minimum investment size and probably charge a higher percentage AUM as well, versus what you guys are charging. And for us also, I think what we offer is at a much lower cost to what the banks would charge as well.
So, I mean, these are, I mean, so there's a lot of initiative. It looks like, you know, it's actually the adoption, the ease adoption is definitely there for all these fintechs to get into the financial wellness and companies. So I think what I'll maybe get a hits around for everybody in the group is how. So back to the big question, right? How do you think companies, any tips for these companies to adopt your solution or adopt fintech or for financial wellness? You know, any general tips that you guys could give our audience? I mean, thoughts for everybody in the panel?
Yeah, no, I think from our standpoint, it's quite easy, very cost efficient. It's free for the company. So offering a financial wellness curriculum where you have a webinar, you set up a webinar, you can do a one-off if you want to and see what the feedback is like from the company, from the employees themselves, right? But you immediately can offer a service that, a service that, hey, we care about you. We know there's a problem with financial wellness, right? We know that. We engage Stashaway. We have them come in on XYZ or over lunchtime or after lunch or whenever you want to do it. Come in for an hour, give a 30-minute presentation, have an open discussion of your about financial planning, right? And that's a very low cost, easy to implement way to get your employees to that different level of personal finances. At least get them to think, right? Get them to think, give them some actionable steps that they can take to improve their personal finance. So I always go out, there's 5 things we learned today. And if you guys do them, I promise you, your life will be better, right? You will not have to worry about personal finance all the time. It's very easy steps, right? Everyone can do them in an Excel sheet that I work them through, right? But that is one way to engage us. You don't have to set up savings or pension plans, right? Because I understand, the P&L is holy right now and cash is king. I completely understand. We're all in the same game, right? So from that standpoint, I totally understand. But that's a way to, just help them, right? And, to help them navigate through these tough times, right? Because I do talk about budgeting, cost cutting and, still reaching your goals and still trying to save.
Yeah, just one more thought on this, right? I think while we've very heavily focused on the employee constituency, and it is very, very important to do so. I think by going, leveraging, using the services that the fintechs are offering, I think it's the SMEs and the employers who benefit as well. I mean, we talked about the softer benefits of more engaged employees, but dollar benefits are there as well. I mean, you're digitizing a number of your services, right? Whether it's expense management, whether it's payments, right, for your own vendors, whether it's sending remittances to your own vendors overseas, right? A lot of SMEs, I think, to be honest, even in Matchmove, we did not realize up to a while ago when we started looking at this is, how much money do we spend on using a traditional bank channel to do remittances, right? And we are coming up with more and more solutions. We'll launch another one soon along with Just Login, right? In terms of where we'll be able to help SMEs to slash their cost by anywhere between 30 to 70% purely on remittances, right? So it's all about the employees, but there are significant benefits to be realized by eliminating paperwork, by digitizing vendor payments, and if not in all cases, in a lot of cases, there is revenue share as well, right? So you can turn around your cost center into a revenue center as well, right? That certainly, if not all the way, certainly help offset the costs that you may be incurring right now or not generating any. You don't really generate revenue by making vendor payments, right? Now, if you do it via the card, there is an ability to monetize that activity. So I think there is certainly benefits for SMEs, employers as well.
So I think that if I could jump in as well. So I think certainly employers are going through a very difficult period of time. For some, it's really a life and death type situation. But that's why it's also so important for the employers to step forward and to show their employees that they care and that they are looking at and they understand that their employees are also equally worried about their own livelihoods. I think in some of the conversations we've had with employers, they do find what we provide useful, because while some employees have had to take pay cuts across the board to make sure that the companies stay afloat, the ability to actually get paid more regularly is a bonus for them. So even though, yes, I've had to take a 15-20% pay cut, but I can actually get paid more regularly, they're slightly happier. Of course, not very happy, but it helps.
That brings us to a very, very important interesting question. I mean, just look at the crystal ball itself, right? After the pandemic is over, business as usual, but I think a lot of business will change, right? How they view employees will be changed. There's this growth of maybe more mobile, more digital payments and all that. It's going to be all ready. What do you think the future looks like, for your particular industry, for employee wellness? What any thoughts? What will be the future like for these companies? What should companies be looking at going forward?
Well, I
Any
think
thoughts on this?
especially for him, right, with remittance, being able to pay your employees anywhere, because I think with what COVID has definitely shown is you can save a little bit on office space, right? You might be able to hire people, because the talent pool in Singapore is always really tough, even for us, right? So we have so many, we actually need to hire. We have so many open tech roles, right? But it's very tough to find a lot of tech talent, right? Really good tech talent. And because we have everything onshore in Singapore, we never wanted to go out and actually do the tech outside here. But with now being able, I can pretty much now work anywhere, right? And it's shown this for the company, right? We shut down I think we had no one in the office probably for 15 weeks because we did it way before, actually, right? No one. So it works. Still things get done, right? And actually more efficiently probably in certain ways, in certain ways not. But I think, something like Matchmove, can they help, make remittances to workers who don't live here anymore, right? Because you can hire people somewhere abroad, right? It's a good use case, right? Or using technology to reach people, let it be a financial wellness course with us. I've done them now regionally, right? So if you use technology, you can offer it over a webinar like this and anyone can join in, right? So I think a lot of these things are the ones that definitely change on the employee engagements. And it will be harder to engage because you don't see them every day in the office anymore. I just don't think, like traditional office, I don't know how it goes forward. We're thinking about it ourselves right now, right? We have 95 employees in Singapore now. So we are also thinking about what are we doing now? We just got our own office in December. So obviously we keep it, but do we need the whole office? Do we make it all hot desks, right? I think there's a lot of structural change going to go on over the next couple of years because I don't think it will be full offices anymore.
Yeah, I tend to agree, absolutely agree. In fact, I think it's probably taken this, what do you call, emergency to get us here, but digitization is here to stay, right? I think new habits have been formed fairly quickly. Normally it takes months and years to form a habit, but in this case, new habits have formed very, very quickly. And I think in quite a lot of cases, there's going to be no turning back, right? So once you know the convenience of whether being able to invest or make a remittance or do an online purchase, right? I think you're largely going to continue with that. There will be certainly, man is a social animal, so there will be a need to go out and meet people and so on and so forth. But largely your administrative work, right? Whether it's payments, whether it's even investments and so on and so forth, it's on mobile, it's on the web. That's not going to change. I don't think that's going to change. And again, absolutely agree on the office space utilization. I don't think anybody's missing going to the office in a hurry, right? People do want to go out, people do want to socialize, but it's not necessarily to sit next to each other in the workplace. And I would rather go
always
for a
say
beer
it's
with
almost
a
the
mate.
best time now, right? Because I get to go meet some partners for lunch or coffee, and then I can go back home and get actually work done. So I don't know, but I think this is what people feel now, right? I think this has made it even harder to return for whatever reason, then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the whole gig economy situation, right? I mean, back to Brian's point, right? They want to get paid faster as well, and all. So the business will not be the same anymore, and all these payments now are so quick that people, employees will definitely want things to be immediate. There's no reason why I need to wait to the last day of the month to get my payday, right? I want it now. I've done my work for today. Maybe I get my pay today. So these are all the evolution of work in the future. I think employees probably need to start thinking along those lines. We got a few more minutes left, so I'm just kind of leave it for the audience for Q&A. If you have any questions, you can type it on the Q&A button. If not, I mean, maybe any last parting words from the panel. I mean, just to advise for the audience how to look into financial wellness and all that.
Yeah, I think for at least let me start. I think hopefully we're able to show you today that it's not necessarily a cost thing, and that fintech is here to help enable both employers and employees, right? And that just do the research. There's so many companies that can possibly help you and lower your overall cost at the same time, right? They give you better services, your employees better services, while also shaving off money on the bottom line. I think hopefully that will come across rightly so, and you start going in that direction and looking for solutions. They're out there.
Amar, any parting statements for our please?
No, I mean, yeah, please. My request would be is this is the right time actually. It's the right time to look at building up your digital assets. In fact, this is the right time also because a lot of us on this side are also offering our services even lower at a lower price, right? So we are in the same boat, if you may, right? In terms of want to offer our services, want to be able to help the community. So this is probably the right time to look at and engage with the fintechs and see how and which one meets your needs the best.
Brian?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for your time today. I think certainly we are very aware of what employers are going through. So it's not as if we don't know the pain and the enormous amount of pressure that employers are currently facing. But I do think that it's also important that employers are take a forward mindset and try and demonstrate thought leadership at this point in time when their employees are equally concerned as well. And I think to just reiterate the point that the other panelists have mentioned as well. So I think the services that we offer are in most cases either very cheap or free for employers. So it's really, it doesn't cost you anything and it shows that you care for your employees.
Fantastic. So thank you, the panels, for today's discussion. I think today, I think for us, we're just kind of like from Just Login's perspective, right? We see employee financial wellness as evolution of HR tech. I mean, no longer is HR going to be just looking at payroll per se. I mean, I think HR has evolved to a level where you not only have to take care of employees' benefits, you need to look at employee retention. And I think the hopefully from today's discussion, everyone's kind of aware that, look, the situation is that you need to also look at what's keeping your employees up at night, right? The stress from managing money and all that. And hopefully from our partners, our partners today's presentation, it allows you to show you that, you know what, these are the offerings that you can actually extend out to your employees, and that will definitely kind of address that major concern, and is an area that you probably need to look out for your employees, just to keep them within build some loyalty for your business and to grow your business. And you happy employees, you got a happy work, you got a very productive company then, and that's how you navigate the business going forward. And so with Just Login's employee first initiative, I mean, we are looking at how companies can look into all these things by putting employees as a priority. So with this, thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. Thank you, everybody who take this afternoon at 10. And hopefully it has been a very fruitful discussion for everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.